welcome to a new episode of Real PR with me, Fiona Scott. How are you? I hope you're having a good week, day, month. We're going to dive right into it today, and I'm joined by someone very special in my life. She is in fact my stepdaughter Lauren. She's also my business buddy, and she's been working with me for a whole year now, and today we're going to share warts and all. Lauren, introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Lauren. I am a media consultant here at Scott Media. We've been working together for a year. I can't believe how quickly that's gone. And it's something completely new that I hadn't done before. I came back to work after maternity leave, and I've come back into a world of media, which is where I thought I was going to end up in the first place. So I'm absolutely loving it.
Okay, she don't think she has to say that, because Lauren and I have always had a very honest relationship, haven't we, Lauren?
Very.
We say things as they are. So tell everyone roughly what you were doing before, Lauren.
So I kind of fell into the world of work after finishing school. I thought I was going to go to uni, but wasn't 100% sure. So went and visited and made the decision to take a gap year. Fell into work in a payday lender, which I don't know how that happened. That was certainly an interesting first job to get into after school.
I remember.
And then from there, I learned a lot about sort of payday loans, pawnbroking, check cashing. From there, I knew that that wasn't where I wanted to stay forever, so I focused a little bit more on the loan side, and I ended up working as a credit controller at an oil company. 2 minutes up the road. It was literally a 2-minute drive, which suited me because I'm not a morning person. And I worked there for nearly 10 years until I went on maternity leave.
Now, I think we might have had a discussion about you or, your siblings maybe working with me. Tell me when you began to seriously think, I ought to probably have a proper word with Fiona about this. When did that happen?
As soon as I got pregnant, I think.
Was it that early?
It was.
I didn't have a clue.
No, I knew that going back to full-time work, and especially in the company that I was in, I just knew that it wasn't going to work. So I thought about it, and I thought I'll give myself to actually have this baby first and go on maternity leave and see what our situation at home was like, whether we could afford for me to go back to work part-time, how much I was going to have to work. And yeah, you actually brought it up first. I didn't even need to bring it up to you. I think we were sort of on the same wavelength pretty quickly after I handed my notice in at my job.
Yeah, I think the thing with me is that because I'd worked for a long time managing teams in TV, and when I started my business, I didn't really want to employ people. Even from my own family, didn't even think about that really, though clearly that has changed. I didn't want the responsibility of managing a whole team. I wanted freelance people, generally because I find they're more committed. Mm-hmm. That's the truth. They're more committed because everything is on them. But when you brought it up with me, I had to really seriously look at the finances of the business, but also how busy I was. And because it's a big mental leap, I think you might realise that now, to take someone on even part-time in the business.
Yeah.
What do you think you've learned about me in the last year that you didn't already know?
That's a good question. I feel like I knew pretty well because we've always spoken about work, and I've always sort of known what you've done. I think I think it's mainly the hats that you wear and how quickly you can switch between those hats, between being family mum and then work head. And we'll be sat here and we'll be having a conversation that maybe we would just have sat on the sofa, but we're actually sat at our desk, and then all of a sudden we switch and it works really well. But the hats that you put on, I think I'm learning that as well, when it's a good time to sort of step out of the personal side and the personal relationship that we've got, the family relationship, to then go into work mode. And I think that's something that I've never obviously had to know about you because I've not sat with you and worked across a desk from you before. But everything else, I think I knew how good you were and successful at work.
I think I always knew that you were, I don't know if you realised it, you were a natural entrepreneur because you've done lots of other things, particularly around your mum, haven't you? Tell people a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I've always been encouraged from all sides of the family really, to work quite early and earn my own money. I started my Saturday job, I think I was 14 when I started, just for paying my phone contract at the time, putting some credit on my phone. And then to pay for my driving lessons, I grew up in such a rural village out in the middle of nowhere that I knew I needed to learn to drive fairly quickly after turning 17. And car insurance is the most expensive thing as a teenager to try and find the money for. So we sort of had conversations at that point as to how I was going to afford to maintain a car. And Mum was in sort of pyramid sales at that point. And it just seemed like a really good, easy way to work a couple of hours in an evening every now and again and put some money into my bank account and save for car insurance. So I would sort of go out and do parties in people's houses. It was candle company, so I was selling candle products maybe once a week, and I would earn maybe £50 every week, and that would be more than I'd be earning at my Saturday job. So I sort of grew it from there until the point where I was ready to then go into full-time work, and that carried me all the way through sixth form to pay for my car and my fuel. Yeah.
But you're also really creative. You're a maker. It's one area where you beat me hands down, because you can make stuff. And you did have a little sideline, a little side hustle, didn't you?
I did.
Tell people about that.
That was mainly around wedding DIY, because I'm very particular, and like you say, I'm quite creative. I can picture things in my head way ahead of before I've created a budget and how much it's going to cost me to make it look like how I want it to. So yeah, I had in my head how I was going to do all our wedding signs and things like that, and I thought, these stickers are going to cost me a fortune. Why don't I just do it myself? So instead of spending £50 on stickers, I spent £300 on the machine to make the stickers. With the idea that obviously after the wedding was done and I'd done all the DIY, that I could do it for other brides looking for certain designs that I couldn't find online. So yeah, I'm quite hands-on in that aspect. If I can't find what I want, I will figure out how to make it myself.
Yeah, that's where you and I differ madly, because if I can't find what I want, I'll find someone else to make it for me.
And that's where I come in.
Yeah. But you've created our cups, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
Our cups, and also you've created our what they call gilets.
Our gilets, yeah.
Gilets.
Gilet.
Our
Body
gilets.
warmer.
Yeah, body warmer. Normal people got a body warmer, but anyway. You've created those, and you really understand naturally sort of brand building and being. You just stepped into that very naturally, which is unusual for someone stepping into a small business where everything else can be a little bit amateur, if you like. I do try and be as brand aware as I can. Have you noticed that?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a little bit of neon about every now and again. And
Yeah, I'm very proud of this.
Yeah.
Very proud of this.
No, you've always had the logo and the colours, and I think I've grown up knowing that and knowing how important it is to be recognisable, whether that's through a logo or the colours that you're wearing or your personal branding, how you are, how you look. Yeah, so that is something that I have always been aware of. I can draw and things like that, so I've sort of designed a few little bits for my own little side hustle. I designed my own logo and things like that, not to any sort of standard above amateur, but it set me off well coming into this world.
That's a bit of imposter syndrome now, because actually it's really good what you do. It's just that when you're making things, it's really hard to charge the true value, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. And learning what your value is at that point.
Yeah. Because some things, take when you used to make shoes. Do you remember the shoes you made?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about the shoes.
Yeah, the shoes.
Yeah.
So, for people who don't know, Lauren would make shoes, and she would cover them in tiny beads or crystals. I've got some upstairs, and we'd buy them. I think they were about 80 quid or something. But the amount of time it took to put those beads on.
Yeah, and that's kind of the whole reason that I don't do that side of my little side hustle anymore, because for creative things that you're actually physically making, so that was a pair of Converse that would cost maybe £50-60 to buy, and it would take me 6 odd hours to put these beads on individually. But I thought, well, I wouldn't pay £100 and something. That's the whole reason that I started making them in the first place, was because I wanted a pair of bedazzled Converse for my wedding, and people were selling them for £120. I thought, I'm not paying £120 for shoes. Again, I said I can do that myself without factoring in how much time it was going to take me to do that. So no, you're absolutely right. Figuring out how much time things are going to cost you in value of your time, not just the value of the products that you're creating.
That's right. I mean, for a wedding, you're highly motivated, aren't you, to spend 6 hours doing your own?
Yes.
But to spend 6 hours doing 10 others for
Exactly.
people, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah. I think I probably did about 10, 15 pairs before I thought, oh, I'm so fed up of seeing beads and my fingers being covered in glue.
And also, you've got a little one running around, and that is time consuming. It's hard to do something like that.
Very, very.
Okay, let's talk about the media itself then. How does it feel now when you're coming to work to be part of the media compared to be someone who was chasing down invoices or, you know, chasing somebody who hadn't paid for months?
Well, the blaringly obvious thing is that I'm happier because I'm not. It's a very draining job to have to constantly be ringing, obviously, and chasing people for money. And that in itself was difficult. But by the time I got to the end of working with that company, I was managing my team. So I started off at the bottom, I worked my way up to then manage them. And that was completely different again to chasing money. I was then chasing my team to chase people for money, which is just a negative on a negative. It was, you'd get the odd sort of thing that you can celebrate. A big payment would come in, a client would come on that you'd be like, great, we've got them on direct debit. Don't have to worry about chasing them. As opposed to now writing about the great things that people are doing, these amazing business people that I'm meeting, and just the positivity that's in this world. It's such a difference, and that's the main thing that I can see the difference in.
You've also, I've always loved the variety of this job because I always think that there are surprisingly fantastic, talented people in every community that people don't see.
Absolutely.
And we get to work with them, some of them, if we choose them and if we like them.
If we like them.
But also, you've embraced networking, and that happened really quickly because I remember saying to you, find a network in your town, Chippenham, and you go there, independent of me, and build relationships. Talk to us a bit about how that's gone.
That was really scary to me when you said about going networking, because I'd never done it before. I always sort of saw that as the sales part, which I never had to get involved in. Obviously, I was the end part of that journey, of the customer's journey. I was the part chasing the money after the sale had been done. So building relationships was never something that I had to do in a business aspect. But I am the kind of person that will say yes and worry about everything else later and figure it out along the way. Fake it till you make it and all that. And luckily, just as I joined you, a new networking group was starting in Chippenham, Business Buzz, and they were after an ambassador. So I thought, what better way to chuck myself in the deep end than be an ambassador for a networking group, let alone just go into one. I am what I would call an extroverted introvert. So I'm happy to go out there and make conversations and make relationships, but I will worry about it first, to the point where up until I leave the door, go out and get in the car, I'm like, right, okay, different hat on. Let's go and mingle. And I've absolutely loved it. It's been the best thing for me over the last 12 months, absolutely. Going out and just meeting new people and then seeing the same people helps because I've built those relationships. Yeah, I love it.
I'm so glad you said that because I'm different from you. I actually look forward to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel I'll come back and I'm like buzzing over, so like sparking.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to then, that has to leave my body before I can sleep. So if it's an evening one. But networking is a slow burn. Let's talk about sales in the business, because often you've probably identified already that many people in business, often women, don't talk about sales or showing people the till.
Mm-hmm.
And this year, one of your, I'm a great believer, as you know, in personal development and training, and this year you're doing a sales course.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about what you've learned about sales.
It's very different in a small business to obviously a big corporate company that I was working for before. We had individual we had individual salespeople that would go out and do that and retain that relationship. In a small business, it's just you to go and make that relationship, maintain it, and then sell to them to see if what you're offering is something that they are wanting to buy. And that's a really difficult conversation to have, especially in a networking environment, because it's not necessarily about selling to the people that you're meeting. It is building that relationship and then seeing where that conversation goes, whether they take it on or if it's the people that they know. And I feel like that's an added pressure, because you're not only trying to have this, create this good impression on this one person that you're meeting, you need to make sure that that then lasts and that they are willing to then refer you. And that's a part of sales that I hadn't really thought about. I thought it would be meet someone, here's what I'm selling, thank you very much.
It's not. It's just that in our world, it's just not that transactional.
No.
Because working with us, as you know, is a long-term thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it involves significant investment. And people don't suddenly say, oh, Lauren, you're really nice, I'm going to chuck $6 grand at you.
Unfortunately.
No, that's right. They just don't. So it's a skill you have to learn.
Absolutely. And it's not necessarily just, it's not a product that we're selling, it's a service, which is very different to if you see something, I want to buy that. You almost have to do that convincing first, especially in PR as well, because people don't generally know what PR is.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is another layer of the sales part that I wasn't expecting.
So I think this year, for the rest of 2025 and 26, I'm just going to tell everyone and put it out there and hold it accountable. We're going to get you talking more, being a speaker yourself.
Yeah.
And we are going to allow you to suggest things, not that you're backward in coming forward. And we're planning for our second No BS Media Summit.
We are.
Tell people what you thought about that, because that's the first time you've been to anything like that.
Absolutely. And I think the people that went would say the same thing. The 2 days were just absolutely mental and buzzing and just such a positive experience from the outset. And some people were clients, so obviously I already knew them or had spoken to them. But there was a room full of people there that I really didn't know on a very personal level. And coming away from that event, obviously I wasn't participating in the things that the delegates were, but I just came away, my brain was going nuts, especially overnight when we had the day in between. My brain was going about different things that we could do, and different stories that we could do for clients and things like that. So it was intense, but absolutely incredible.
And also, I think the other thing, by bringing other journalists into the room, as we did, and we will be doing next year, if you haven't met a national and international journalist before, you might have preconceptions about them, but actually, they're no different than you or I.
No.
They're storytellers.
Yeah.
I mean, what did you think of the journalists that were there?
It was initially a little bit intimidating because we sat them up on the stage and they were sort of like a little panel above everybody else. But like you say, they're just like us, just normal people. And we were just having normal conversations about everyday life. They are great at asking questions, as I know from you, from being a journalist. I know that is just naturally part of how you build relationships, is asking questions and sort of getting information out of people, not in a bad way, and trying to make them realise that there are stories inside them that they might not necessarily know or be aware of or maybe want to share at a certain time. But just chatting to the journalists, I aspire to be able to have conversations like that with people, just naturally have those questions roll off the tongue.
But you're already doing it.
Learning.
You are learning, but you're already doing it with our clients. And to me, see, it's no different.
Yeah.
We are journalists for businesses. The only difference for you and I is who pays the bill.
Yes.
We haven't got a newspaper paying the bill or a TV company or a radio station. It's a lot of individuals who are paying our bills. Lauren, I think we could go on for ages.
We could.
And we'll probably do a catch-up again in 2026. I'm thinking ahead now, gosh, a year's going madly by. So thank you very much. Thank you for working with me and putting up with me several days a week. And I hope you've really enjoyed that. I've enjoyed chatting to Lauren, but I get the luxury of talking to her every single week. And if you want to find out more about us, you can find Lauren and me on LinkedIn. I'm Fiona Scott. Lauren is Lauren Roberts. Or you can visit scottmedia.uk, or you can join our Facebook group, Fiona Scott's PR Tribe, and just answer the questions and say you've listened to this podcast and we'll let you in. See you soon.